What's going on, ladies and gents? This is Bento with another Steam controller playtest, and this time I'm going to be trying it out on Deus Ex Human Revolution. Now, I really like Deus Ex because of its varied gameplay style. You can sneak or go action, go loud pretty much however you want to. Plus, it's also an RPG FPS, so I thought it'd be pretty cool. And I really think the Steam controller can complement its gameplay style. So, for my actual control scheme, I am using a pure keyboard and mouse setup. The gamepad hybrid didn't really work out so well because there are some functions that just didn't work at all. But in terms of actual control scheme, it's pretty similar to how you'd see Deus Ex on a typical gamepad. So for my actual control scheme, the left trigger is to stick to cover. The right trigger is actually a dual trigger function, which is to aim for the soft pull action and to shoot for the hard pull action. My right bumper is to reload, but because the tranquilizer reloads itself. My left bumper is for grenades and anything you have equipped. And if you were to hold it down, it'll detonate. But this is Adam Jensen's apartment, so I don't really want to do that right now. The right trackpad is used for camera movement, and I am using a mouse style of input with the trackball function. And I do have motion control on just for more added precision aiming. The left trackpad, I'm actually using a 16 button track menu. It looks a little complicated, but this is just so I can access the 10 different weapons on display right now. And the F1 to F4 are used for Adam's powers. So I can go Cloak, Smart Vision, Silent, or Typhoon. And just to demonstrate for you guys that right now, I have the Smart Vision on, and you just have to tap it again to turn it off. Left stick is to move, and I am using a WASD movement. And the click is to run. And it is a shift click. For my face buttons, I have Y on marking targets. The B button is used for takedowns. The X is used to just holster. And the A, actually I have it differently, which is to function to make Adam walk or run. And it's important because sometimes if you want to sneak, you have to get by through mines and stuff. Left grip is to crouch. Right grip is to jump. Oops. And the start and select buttons, the select button I have it as just the inventory. And the right start button is just used to access the pause menu. So that's pretty much it. Let's show you guys some actual gameplay. In terms of any technicalities, I've had no issues with the Steam controller and Deus Ex, other than the fact that you can't really use a hybrid gamepad and keyboard setup, which is kind of a bummer because one of the advantages of having a left stick is that you can minimize your movements based on how far you push your left thumbstick. So with Deus Ex on consoles, it was really helpful to slip by mines. On keyboard and mouse though, you have to press the caps lock button. In this case, because I am using a pure keyboard and mouse setup, I had to put the decrease movement button on the A button. You could honestly just emulate the entire Steam controller to be the actual gamepad itself. That way you can take advantage of that left thumbstick movement when you're sneaking by enemies. But I really much prefer the mouse style of input rather than the mouse joystick style. And again, that's mainly with the issues I had similar to Dead Space 2, in that the axis felt a little weird, like moving diagonally just did not feel right at all. And so it's much smoother with the mouse, and so that's why I'm kind of sticking with this control setup. Issues aside though, I think the Steam controller works really well with Deus Ex. I like that I was able to implement motion controls for aiming because I think that just makes it a lot more precise, especially if you need to use the tranquilizer gun. It helps a lot. The touch menu is also really helpful. It may seem a little overwhelming at first because of how many buttons there are, but you do eventually get used to it. But if any of you guys ever want to change that up, you could just limit the number of buttons. Or if you want, you could use a scroll wheel instead. So that way you can access the quick menu without having to select so many buttons. The dual trigger functions has also helped me out pretty well. Since Deus Ex doesn't use a sticky cover system, kind of like how Gears of War uses one, where you just tap A and you immediately stick to the wall, having cover for your left trigger just feels more natural. I think it also might be a good idea to put it on the left and right grips if you wanted to. And so the dual triggers has limited my right thumb movement, so I don't have to press so many buttons. And it helps because while I'm aiming, I can still keep my camera moving. Or while I'm aiming down sights, I can still move my camera around. I think having interact or use on the right trackpad click has actually helped me in a lot of my games. in some instances where I just want to pick up items while moving, it actually has helped quite a bit. And if I need to like browse through multiple objects, it's also helped just with in conjunction with motion controls. So here, for example, I think the left thumbstick would have been much better to use, since you only have to tap it slightly to go into a slower movement speed, rather than me having to hit the A button. So if you guys want that, I think a pure gamepad setup might be much better.
Human organization had received.
Now, I'm telling you, something big is going on in Highland Park. Now, Stewie didn't say much, but when he got close to the warehouse, there were already people in there.
Was it the bangers? I heard they've been expanding out there.
No, from what he described.
I think hacking felt fine too, although I did have trouble adjusting at first because my left thumbstick is used to move the camera around while I just move the cursor with the right trackpad. Felt a little awkward, but you do get used to it.
Access granted.
Boss, is that back door still open?
No, good job.
So this segment of the video is just meant to show you guys the more action approach. I do really like that I can still keep my cover and use motion controls to aim. I still use the right trackpad, obviously, so I can quickly select between targets, but I think the motion control has really helped my aiming for Deus Ex. I also think the touch menu is actually very helpful for a more shooty approach. That way, if you want to have more guns and you need to select between them, then I think the touch menu will really help you there. So the video is just about to finish up, guys, but I really like Deus Ex with the Steam controller. I think if you've never played it, or if you want to play it again and you have the Steam controller, I think it's worth checking out. Not to mention you can make use of the motion controls, the dual trigger functions, and the touch menu. I think if you really want to play a gamepad style setup, those really complement Deus Ex's style of gameplay.
What was that? You son of a bitch!
That's all for today, guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.